Welcome to the week of March 9th. We start this week with a high quality workout of mile, halves, and quarters. This workout is going to tax your legs and lungs equally. If we think in terms of demands of racing, when we go to something short like the mile, it is legs and lungs on the same page. Both are getting maxed out as you come to the finish of the mile race. If we think about the marathon, it's much more about the legs. If you're breathing hard in a marathon, it's because your legs had a really good day and you're able to push and tax your lungs at the end. So the obvious question, if you're a marathoner, is then why are we doing this workout? Why do we need to tax our lungs as much as our legs? I'm going to answer that question hopefully in a couple of minutes, but first, the workout. This is the primary workout that most of you have. Some of you might have a couple fewer reps. Some of you might have a few more. So we start with the mile at 85 to 90%, and we can think of that in terms of 5K to 10K pace. That's not all that precise, but to give you an idea, we want to be 5K, maybe a little bit slower, but it should be, especially the last half mile to quarter mile, you want to be producing some of your energy anaerobically, which you can tell by the rate of your breathing. You're producing some lactic acid, but you're able to buffer it. So it's going to get uncomfortable towards the end, but it's not like you're racing the mile, but it's pretty hard. 400-meter recovery jog, we go right into the 800s that are also at 85 to 90%, but because you already have that mile in the bank and now everything is a little bit higher, your heart rate has not come down a whole lot in that 400-meter recovery, and you can get it back up a lot faster. These 800s should be faster, certainly 5K pace, if not a little bit faster than that. And these should feel anaerobic, but maybe the last quarter mile of the halves. After the two halves for most of you, then we're going right into the quarter miles, and those are at 90%. There's not a whole lot of difference between 90% and how it feels at 100%. So think of those as just going as fast as you can, or roughly mile race pace. So the reason that we're doing these is the law of muscle fiber recruitment. And when you're running this fast and breathing this hard, you're having to recruit deep into your barrel of available muscle fibers. And just as a reminder, if you think about that as a bicep curl, when you start at a weight, let's say it's something that you can do 10 or 12 reps of, the first couple, you're recruiting a certain percentage of your muscle fibers. As you go through that set and those muscle fibers fatigue and quit, you have to recruit more and more. So maybe you started at 20% of your muscle fibers. Those have quit, now you're down to 40%. And towards the end of that, you might be getting to where you're recruiting 60%. Maybe the third set, maybe you're getting to all of them or pretty close. So that's what we're trying to do with these faster intervals is in a quarter mile. So very short period of time in context of a marathon, we are recruiting muscle fibers that you don't recruit until you get to, well, even 20 miles, you might not get there. If you're going comfortably enough, if you're racing, certainly you will get there. So what we're trying to simulate is the depth of the muscle fibers that you're recruiting late in the marathon. So that's why we're doing that. Additionally, we want to continue to drive up VO2. It's not our primary focus right now for marathoners, but if we can drive that up, you're more and more relaxed, your breathing is more and more comfortable at goal pace than if we didn't do this high-end work. The moderate quality workout this week are aerobic intervals. We're going to do 40-80s, 30-60s, and 20-40s. These should be aerobic. If you kept going for the 40-80s, for example, if instead of 40 seconds fast and 80 seconds jog, if we switched that and went 80 seconds fast, 40 seconds jog, you would go anaerobic at that same speed. So they should be fast, but by the time you're getting to start this, at about 35 seconds, maybe the warning light would go on, you're gonna go anaerobic. But by the time you would actually go anaerobic, you get to that 40 seconds, you do that super slow-mo jog for 80 seconds and repeat. And then we keep dropping down. So 30 seconds fast, 60 seconds jog, and then 20 seconds fast, 40-second jog. And this is maybe the best workout in terms of return on investment because it doesn't feel that hard at all. It should be fun. And you're getting a lot of benefit from it. I know for me, a man with not much true speed, these maxed out what I had. I did these, there was a point where I did essentially this kind of workout every Thursday, and I had the best speed I ever had. Maybe high school, because we did 2 or 3 speed workouts a week, but this is great return on investment for speed. And that's important for a few reasons. One, we're recruiting fast twitch fibers, which eventually you will use in a marathon, because you're going to be recruiting, going back to our law of muscle fiber recruitment, you're recruiting everything by the end of that marathon. So recruiting fast twitch fibers, and certainly if you're racing shorter, you want to do that. Your biomechanical balance, your stride length when you're running a 20 miler versus your stride length when you're doing this is significantly different. And when we start elongating that stride and getting better mechanics, we're also doing some strength training, because you're pushing off the ground with more force. But we're trying to keep good mechanics. And that's a good way to think about this. As you're running, how fast can you go and maintain great mechanics? You should look good doing this. You should look as good as you get when you're running. If you start looking like you're struggling, you're overcooking it, and you're not getting the aerobic in the aerobic intervals. And again, as I said, it should be a fun workout. The long run this week, for most of you, we've shuffled that a little bit based on race schedules, but for most of you, it's an endurance long run. Most of you have 2 to go if you're going to be racing Carmel or Boston. So this is one where you should feel good, you should feel strong. For most of you, this isn't your first 20, so you should feel pretty comfortable with the distance. So the effort that I want you to give on this one is don't push, but don't hold back. So this shouldn't be just a relax, let's just get through it long run, but also shouldn't be let's hammer and need recovery for a full week either. So you should feel really good doing this. It's one of your last couple of times to rehearse what are you eating the day before your long run for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. How well are you hydrating the day before? What are you doing in terms of breakfast the morning of? What's your timetable look like? How much earlier than start time do you want to be up? And then what are you taking in terms of carbohydrate and fluids during the run? And then also break it down into mental segments. That's not going to be the same as racing, though you can kind of rehearse that in your mind and say, okay, I'm only doing 20 miles, but let's say the first 5 is the first 5 of the marathon, or you can break it down however you want. But break it down in some mental segments and rehearse, okay, here's how I said I wanted to feel. Here's the effort I said that I wanted to give. Okay, now I'm in this next segment, and I said that it was okay to feel a little more uncomfortable in this segment than the one previous. So run through that. Hopefully you've worked on that a bit if you don't have it from previous seasons of how you want to break down your marathon or your half marathon. Always a great way to do it. And I have suggestions in Training Peaks. If I have posted your race, there's a race plan there. And if you don't have that yet, but want to see it, email me and I'll send you that plan that you can kind of work from and make it your own. So a pretty straightforward week. We're working really hard on Tuesday for your legs and lungs. We're having fun running fast on Thursday or whatever day you're doing these workouts. And one of our last endurance long runs on Saturday.